in here on a Saturday morning. Got a pretty good crowd starting to roll in, and we'll see how many we wind up with. But in any event, I wanted to kick the day off on time so that we can end promptly and give everybody.
I've got a big echo.
Okay.
Echo.
If you're not speaking, let's see if everybody mutes, if we can get better. Okay, how are we doing now? Is that better? Okay, super.
No, I've still got an echo.
You need to turn your speakers down.
How are we doing on echo now? Doing better? Okay. Okay, so if you're not asking a question, if you could mute, that would probably be helpful to eliminate any feedback. So I appreciate it, everybody. Good. Well, one of my goals for the year is the strengthening of our existing Kiwanis clubs. And one of the best ways that we can do that is through the education process. Hence, we have webinars like this morning. And the topic of today is Club Excellence Days, which is another way that we'll be reaching out to our clubs in order to provide education that we think will help to strengthen their clubs. My theme for the year, being engaged and share the mission, is really centered around three main areas. One is service. The second is publicity and hype, as we've called it. And the last is around growth and membership growth in particular. And that's growth really at all levels of our organization. So with that, today, we were going to talk a little bit about what Club Excellence Days are going to be like. And we'll talk about when they are. And Leah will let us know when we think registration will be actually open for those. We're going to talk about not just about Club Excellence Days, we're going to provide you content that we're going to be having in Club Excellence Days. Specifically, we're going to talk about public relations planning, and Bruce Cupper is going to cover that. Then Casey Ramsey's with us, going to talk about editing our photographs that we use when we're doing social media or providing pictures to newspapers or magazines. What's going to make those pictures pop a little bit better and get our message across. And then Mary and Mike are going to talk about membership planning and targeted recruiting today. So those are the topics that we're going to specifically cover during the course of the day. So let me give you a sense of what the days of Club Excellence Days will look like. And those that have been to club coaching days will recognize the general format that we have. But in fact, we've significantly changed some of the content that we're going to cover than we've done in past years. Plus, we haven't done even a club coaching day in the last 2 years, since I think February of 2020. So even if you'd been to some of those and some of the sessions look familiar, you know, they're a good refresher for our folks. And plus, we're hoping we have new leadership of our clubs who will be attending the Club Excellence Days. So I'll kick the day off and talk a little bit about the theme, get us all on the same page. And then we'll get to the really important stuff, which is doing the training sessions. And we'll have three tracks of training that will each have 4 slots in which we will do different types of sessions. And I'll talk specifically about those in a minute. But the tracks are going to tie directly to the theme for the year, which is service, hype or public relations, and then membership and growth. So we've tied it directly to the theme. And then after we've had of course, there'll be lunch in there as well. That's included in the fee. Then there'll be a session afterwards for club members to get together and talk about what they heard today and can in fact put action plan together, if you will, for their own clubs. And then we'll just have a quick closing session and get some feedback from everyone. So that's the format of the day, which is consistent with our old club coaching days. But I think when you look at some of the content, you'll see some real differences. So let's look at the service track. The first session is going to be about rediscovering your community. And I think after having been through at least 2 years of COVID-19, the needs of our communities have changed, and we do need to freshen up our looks at our communities. And that's what we're going to be talking about in that first session, about how you go about doing that. We're going to talk about service leadership programs, because we still think that's one of the best things that we as Kiwanis do in terms of educating and the leaders of tomorrow. And we're going to be talking about what club obligations are related to service leadership programs. We've had good growth in those year to date, by the way, but we know we can do more. Then we're going to have a session on young children. We used to call it Young Children Priority 1. They've taken the Priority 1 out of the name. It's the International Committee on Young Children. Barbara Day is putting together a program for that, where we're going to talk about specifically what projects your clubs can do that will be addressing kids from the 3rd grade and down. So that's the focus of young children. And then we're going to talk about really some high impact and signature projects that are going around in the district and that we see across the country and internationally that we might consider for our clubs. So trying to give us some specific ideas about new ways that we can serve our communities. The public relations track is going to talk about public relations planning, and Bruce is going to cover some of that session with you here in just a few minutes. And then we're going to move into the photographs that we take. And KC is going to give you an introduction to that session this morning as well. Then we're going to talk about how we take those photos and how do we brand them? How do we make them better? How do we add content with our photos? And we've got a session being put together on branding those photographs. And then we'll have a session on social media and how we use it for marketing and how we can get the best out of whatever platforms we decide that we should be on. So that's the public relations track. Then we get to membership, and we talk about things like membership planning, having a plan, what the membership committee should be doing in order to best serve your clubs. And then a session a little bit different about, does your club look welcoming to prospective members? Are there some things that we're doing in our clubs that maybe make some people turn away? They only come once, they don't come back. Okay, let's think about what some of those things might be. So we're having a session there. And then there'll be an exercise in the course of that particular discussion. And we want to talk about flexible club types, different membership options, things that our clubs could consider to attract folks to our club that don't want to come to the meeting that we currently have maybe at 8 o'clock in the morning, or they can't make noon meetings, or they can't make meetings that are in the evening for dinner. So what might options be to be able to attract folks to our club that they can still participate and be Kiwanians? And then we'll talk about retention and engagement of members, which we just can't not talk about. The back door is still open in a lot of our clubs. And while we continue to bring in new members this year, for example, we brought in about 240, 250 members, but we're only up about 75 or 80 members year to date. So that back door is still open. We still have people leaving the organization. We need to focus on how we keep them in. So the dates that we currently have scheduled for Club Excellence Days are the two that are on the screen right now. April 30th is going to be in Florence, South Carolina. It's a facility that we've used before with good success, and we hope that we can attract folks from South Carolina, anybody along the 95 corridor up a reasonable distance. We try to put these out there so they're only about 2 hours away or less from our clubs. And then May 14th will be in the Triad area near Greensboro and Jamestown. Again, a site that we've used for club coaching days in the past, we'll be using. And the price, $30. It costs us more to put them on, but we really think it's important that we make this affordable so that more people from every club can attend. What we'd love to see is clubs that attend to have at least 3 people come to the session. That way they can divide and conquer and go hit all 12 of those education sessions by those 3 people. More people is even better, but we really love to see at least 3 people from each of our clubs. We'd love to schedule more. Let's see how these go. And then we'll see what we can maybe do as we get later in the summer or even in the fall. We'll see where COVID is. The reason our
Joe?
session is, yeah.
Joe, could I ask a quick question? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The one on the 14th of May that says tentative, has that been confirmed, or?
It's only tentative because I don't actually have a contract in hand yet. They've promised us the space. We're just waiting to get the contract before we say it's finalized.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I fully expect it to occur that particular day. Yeah. So good. Okay. I think we're there. I think we're ready to get into a little bit of content. Y'all ready for that? Good. Okay. I'm going to turn this over to Bruce Cupper. Bruce is a member of my club. He's had a career in public relations and has some ideas and going to share a case study with you that I think you'll find eye-opening and give you some good ideas about how you can get better media attention, if you will, for your club. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bruce.
Okay, hopefully everybody can hear me.
We can. If you can sit back a little from your computer, we can see you better.
You're better off looking at the slides. Okay. What we're going to try to do in these Club Excellence days is people have a lot of trouble. They talk about public relations, but they have a hard time separating tactics from strategy. They have a hard time setting expectations. So one of the things we're going to try to do is show you some simple ways to establish goals for whatever you're doing for public relations. We're going to try to show you that it's something where you need a committee because there's so much to do. You got to pick and choose what things you want to try to do. And then we want you to get some tools so you can assess and select media options. A lot of times we spend a lot of time on things that aren't very productive, but there are other things that are much more useful for you, for your purposes, depending upon what you're trying to do. So for instance, a newspaper story used as a reprint can be used 5, 6, 7 different ways. Whereas a radio or TV clip, while it's really exciting to have, is a lot harder to show and a lot harder to assess. So depending on what you're trying to do, depends on the kinds of things you might want to try. And then we'll give you some definitions so you can measure the level of success. Because what happens is most of the people in the clubs, they're what we call amateurs when it comes to PR and advertising, and they have a hard time telling when something is good or bad. And it really helps to kind of give them an idea of how successful or how good it worked. We can go to the next slide, Joe. So one of the things we're going to try to do is give you some goals. Some of the simple goals are increased club visibility, increased membership, increased program awareness, drive attendance to certain events or open houses. I always find building club morale is a lot more important than people realize. That when the club looks good, the members are happier and the people considering joining are happier. And most importantly, the sponsors are happier. And sometimes we forget about the sponsors. The other thing is it's surprising how many people don't really know what Kiwanis does or doesn't. They don't recognize the name. They know it's up there next to Rotary, but we're a far cry from a Rotary or something of that nature. And then we'll give you some programs where you can get some easy PR opportunities by recognizing individual members, program partners, and sponsors. It's really nice when we do an event to include the sponsors in there because they feel like they're getting much more recognition than just a charitable contribution. So that's always, people really respond to that very, very well. All right, Joe. What's important is at the club level, all publicity is local. Now, there's a big difference between Southport, North Carolina, and let's say Raleigh, or between Lumberton and Columbia, South Carolina. But in the end, all publicity is local. So the person that, writes the newspaper story usually lives, around the corner, around the block from you. The magazine publisher usually is, goes to church with you, or maybe joins some of the clubs that you're in. Now, when we get to the radio and TV, we have to have our vision a little larger. So for like a Southport, North Carolina, we look at Wilmington. So you have to look at what market you're getting your radio and TV products from. And then that's your local market. So even though it might not be in your town, they will treat you as you're part of their community. And it's a little harder to get traction, but it's something you can do. And then a lot of people don't really get a sense of the online publications. And you'd be surprised how many neighborhood publications, how many local tourist or activity publications, the library the library has a online presence. So you'd be shocked. Now, all these things, and one of the reasons why we talk about why a committee is important, you have to get the names and the contact information. And it takes a long time. It's a lot of work to build up your media list. And that media list is critical because once you build it, then you just kind of have to improve it as people change jobs or people move on to another market. But for the most part, you've got a lot of your homework done. And the smaller markets have a tendency to change much less than the major markets. So the smaller towns, once you build the list, it's much more stable than in other places. Okay, Joe. We'll also give you during this seminar, not today, but when you come, we'll give you websites where you can go and get information on how to. We'll give you certain places to go if you want to focus on your social media for each of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. It helps sometimes when you're sitting in a room to see how somebody else did it, to see the steps you have to do. It isn't a major science. It's not like you're a doctor, but there are some simple hints that really save you a lot of time when you do this. And so that's important, that you get a sense of where to go and how to act and what to do. And we'll cover a lot of those things. Like if you can do a press release in one page, it's better, than if you have a multi-page press release. And when you send a photo, make sure you got the captions with the names of the people. And if you want to, you can also put a sticky note on the back of the photo in case they lose the piece of paper that you paperclip to the photo. Because the media has a tendency to take the path of least resistance. So the more you do for them and the easier you make it, the more likely you're going to get the coverage. Okay, Joe. Now, Joe wanted me to talk about this case study. That's my local dog. He's given a value at the bottom of 7 times the value on the free acquired media. The reality is how much it is secondary to the fact that the media that you get as public relations is much more valuable to you than the paid advertising that you get. Now, we did a speaker series in Southport, and that speaker series, which is ongoing right now, we raised so far $38,000. But more importantly, for the club, we have the local magazine gave us 6 quarter-page stories. The local paper gave us 4 1/6-page stories. And these stories are basically announcing the speaker series, taking the speaker series and featuring each of the 4 nights we had, and then talking about the money we raised for our scholarship program and what's going on. And what it does is it makes the club look much more vital. Now, the TV station, they interviewed some of our speakers. We've got 12 broadcast minutes on there. And the radio station, they gave us 5 12-minute interviews, one with our club president and then one with each of the 4 speakers. And we also got 50 public service announcements. Now, if we had to buy that would cost us $17,800. The value of it, because PR is much more intrusive than advertising. The typical ad is noticed by 25, 35, 50% of the people. The PR is noticed by 70, 80% of the people. They're much more likely to notice. They perceive it as news. And so it's much more important to them, and it cuts through a lot of the clutter. Okay, Joe.
Bruce, before you move on, could you
Yeah.
just spend a minute and talk about who you spoke with at each of those
Sure.
media
At
outlets?
at the magazine, we talk to the publisher because it's a small local magazine and he controls all the stories. At the Stateport Pilot, we talked to the publisher, but they immediately turned us over to a reporter. At the TV station, we talked to the community relations director, who turned us over to the news director. Then the news director assigns the stories. Now, the reason we went to the community relations director is the news director is looking for something very immediate. The community relations person is looking to promote charities, promote service organizations, because all radio and TV stations have to apply for their federal license. So they have to have so many interactions with service organizations. So that's a good place to go because that will shorten the contact time, and it'll also make it easier because you're much more likely to get that person. At the radio station, we talked to the general manager of the station, who immediately gave us over to the morning drive time person who got excited about it. And so we're on that morning drive time show that 5 times. But in every market, it might be different where you go, but the higher you go, the faster is the cycle for getting traction. And so being a lazy guy, I always try to get traction as fast as I can. Okay, so when we go to Club Excellence Day, we're going to give you a lot more detail. We're going to go on what a simple press release. You don't have to be exact on these things, but there are some simple things to do to get a good press release. We're going to give you ideas for stories and photos for publication. The kinds of things that local papers and magazines want to give to their readers. We're going to give you some sample calendars for event promotions, you know, how to launch them, when to announce them, what to do, how far in advance. And then we're going to give you some suggestions on member communications. What we're trying to do here is give you a vast palette of things to pick from. And then depending on what you want to do at your club, you can focus in. You can't do everything at once. It's a lot of work to get started, and it's much better to have very specific goals and very specific outcomes. We'll also talk about the expanding reach of the social media. I know we've got some experts that are coming after me, but we'll cover that on some simple things that you have to do and some simple requirements in terms of the number of times that you have to do it in order to have social media that is meaningful. It's good to have one meaningful social media platform. Sometimes we try to do too much with too little and we end up with nothing. Hopefully, if you come to the Club Excellence days, we'll give you enough information so that you get things that have traction, so that your club members, when they evaluate how good the effort was, they'll come away saying, hey, that was worth doing because, you know, we got a lot of traction in the community and a lot of people are noticing us. So that's pretty much what I had to say.
And Bruce, you
Unless you guys
talked a
have any
little bit to
questions.
me about how we can expand our social media reach by linking that to some of the traditional media.
Well, yeah, all the broadcast media and virtually all the newspapers and magazines have a social media presence. They have followers. In the television, it's usually based around the news and weather. In the radio, it's usually based around the personalities. On the magazine, it's usually people that have common interests with the focus of the magazine. It might be restaurant people, or it might be travel tourism people. And the newspaper is usually a large percentage of the readership tries to follow it. You can link in your information onto their social media and take advantage of their platforms. And from there, you can mine some of their people so that they will either become Kiwanis members or follow Kiwanis and get an idea of what you're doing. The good news about social media is you can put a lot of content there so that the people, you know, most of our members tend to be a little older. They like to read and they like a lot of facts. And we have the ability in social media to do that. We have ability to list a lot of information without necessarily boring people or bogging them down. They can read what they want. They can follow what they want. But you can use these radio TV and print platforms, and even other online platforms in order to expand your reach. If you're only talking to your membership, that's good from a morale point of view. That's good from a keeping the members connected point of view. But as far as growing the club, it doesn't do you a whole lot of good because you're talking to the people that you talk to all the time. So I hope that helps you understand a little bit what we're thinking about.
Great. Thank you, Bruce. Are there any questions? I'll just ask you to unmute and fire questions for Bruce if you have any.
Joe, Jennifer has asked a question in the chat.
Okay.
So the question is, so if we have a social media presence, would it be a good idea to tag the TV, radio, newspapers when we post? Would that be a good way to start to get recognized by these other media?
Well, you can tag them, but unless you talk to them and establish a relationship with them, it's not gonna go anywhere, in my opinion. What happens is you've tagged them, and you might get a few people that flip over, but it's not going to have the impact if you talk to the person that's coordinating the social media for that publication or that media. They will feature you. They will put you at the front of the posts. They'll put you at the front on the homepage, and that will really help impact you greatly. And such that you can show it to your memberships at meetings, and you say, look, we're on this TV station, we're on the front page, and they were featuring our activity, we were featuring what we were doing, they were featuring this award, whatever. So I think that's kind of the simple way, but it's not very effective way. The most effective way is to meet with these people and talk to these people and create a professional relationship with them.
Okay. Anybody else?
You can come to the Club Excellence Day, and then you can save yourself a lot of time on the webinar today and not have to ask any questions.
All right. Thanks, Bruce. I really appreciate that. You've done a nice job putting that together, encapsulating it, and I hope everybody got some ideas and some thoughts and wets their whistle a little bit with regard to what we're going to cover. Bruce is also going to be doing a session at mid-year in Wilmington on the 19th of March on the public relations planning piece of this. So if you're at mid-year, you will have another opportunity besides the Club Excellence Days to get that particular piece of the pie.
And you can just give me the $30.
Fair enough. All right, I'm going to turn it over to KC and let KC get into our session on photographs. You're muted, KC.
All right. How's that? Can you hear me now? All right, here we go. Thank you. This is a subject that we could spend days talking about. Jenny Becker in the Kiwanis Club of East Cooper Mount Pleasant did the bulk of the work for this, and I am simply the pinch hitter because she's a little incapacitated and needed some help. So I did spend a fair amount of my life taking pictures, and I go back to, I bought my first camera when I was probably in junior high school, and I've been taking pictures all my life, but I can tell you that it is a lot easier now than it was in 1968 or whatever it was, because every one of you now has a smartphone, and a smartphone is one of the most impressive photography tools there is. One of the things we want to do today, I can advance the slide, but talk a little bit about composing photographs, how you organize a photograph, what's included, what's not, some thoughts about editing, and then using photography to promote your club and attract members. Again, the goal here today is just to give you a taste, not to give you a graduate level course on photography, but to do that, Jenny went into the websites of some of your clubs and pulled up some photographs from your websites and did some quick editing to show you how you could improve them. We're not going to talk about any tools like Photoshop or Lightroom. These are all tools that you have literally in your pocket or on your laptop. So don't feel like you have to be overwhelmed with the technology. A couple of thoughts about images, and I use this example. Let's say that you have a tree that needs to be cut down in your yard, and you're driving around town and you see a truck that is about to fall apart, and on the side of the truck is a sign that says Jim's Tree Service, and the word service is misspelled, and Jim doesn't look like he's doing too well either. And then another mile down the road, you see Mary's Tree Service, and the truck is bright, shiny new, and Mary looks great. Guess which one you're going to call? Well, the images you put on your website have the same response to people looking at them. If you put up Jim's Tree Services images on your website, you're sending a message to the public that you may not be the best choice. So what we want you to do is to take a look at your websites and take a look at your photographs. Now, just a quick introduction, we can get into more of this in the club coaching days. You have excellent, free, and easy to use photo editing tools on your computer and phone. I've got 3 screen captures here. The one, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but the one with the image way over to the left on the light blue background is called Paint. Every Windows computer has Paint. I don't have a Mac, but I'm sure Mac has something similar. The one below it is what happens in Windows when you just open a photograph that's a PNG file, and we'll talk a little bit about PNG versus JPEG. And again, you can edit, you can crop, you can rotate, you can change exposure. And then the image here over on the right is what happens when you open a photograph on an iPhone. And it's got an incredibly powerful editing suite, which is the lingo for the tools you use to edit. And we'll get into more of that in more detail on club coaching days. Just one quick thought about composition. And this is, if you remember nothing today, remember this. The photograph on the far left was taken on an iPhone, and we're quite naturally inclined to put the image in the middle of the frame. And what happens is that to the right of that photograph is a lot of visual noise, all that band equipment, and the person that we're most interested in seeing is sort of lost in all of that noise. By cropping, and cropping means cutting away what you don't want. By cropping a little bit and putting that, the most important image, the most important item in the photograph at what we call one of the 1/3 points. So if you mentally divide a picture into 9 little pictures and you look at where these lines cross, those are the natural places to put the most interesting image, most interesting part of the image. So compare the image on the far right to the image on the far left, and I think it's easy to see which one is naturally going to attract the most attention. These are photographs from some of your websites. The photograph on the left was a picture, obviously, of a pancake breakfast. We did a little cropping and brought it in more closely. And you can see that all of that table with the boxes and the buckets on the floor is missing. And now what you see is a couple of good Kiwanians and some really delicious looking pancakes. And the line of that, of those grills leads your eye right into the photograph. So what came out of the camera on the left with a 5-second, well, maybe 15 seconds it takes to crop an image on the right, dramatic improvement. Another shot where you just crop in a little more closely and change the exposure. You can, when you're using a phone to take a picture, you can adjust the photograph. Most of you probably don't know this, but you can look at the image and say, wow, that's kind of dark. And when we get to the, when we have more time at the Club Coaching Day, we'll show you how to literally do it in real time, but you can brighten the image up. And look what happens when you take the photograph on the left, brighten it up and crop in. Much more interesting photograph, much more attractive. One more example, and here's a cardinal rule of photography. Don't take pictures of people eating. Nothing attractive about someone eating. And that poor gentleman in the lower right is a great guy, but by cropping in, eliminating the people with food in their mouth, and you see the interest on that young woman in the red coat, much different, much better photograph. Same photograph, just simply cropped. And as Jenny has said, showing the joy at the event. This one's just basically simple, changing the exposure so that that enthusiastic Kiwanian who is welcoming you to the Kiwanis table is no longer in a shadow, it's a little brighter. If you've got tools like Photoshop, you can do very sophisticated exposure work, but just with simple tools that you have on your computers or your phone, you can make these photographs better.
Hey, Casey.
Yes,
could you
sir.
just mention, like on the phone, what buttons you might hit to brighten up the exposure, or use the auto feature on the editing process?
Sure. Let me go back to the image that's got the image of the phone on it. You see this image over here on the right, far right of the screen? I can't see people, so that little wand right there, if you do nothing else, press that and it will improve your photograph. If you want to crop, you go down here to the bottom and you push that button and it brings up little handles on either side of the photograph so that you can crop in. If you want to add effects, you can push this button and you can turn it from color to black and white. You can make it sepia tones. This is an iPhone. Now, I don't have a Samsung, so I don't know exactly what it is, but these tools, you just get in and play around with it a little bit. And the way you do that, when you bring the phone up in your pictures catalog, you go up to the upper right-hand corner and push the button that says edit, and it'll open up this screen and you can make all these adjustments. That work, Joe?
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. One more example where we've just simply cropped in, cut out a lot of the background, brought it in so that we can see the people that are most important. Cropping and what we call the rule of thirds. If you remember nothing else, that's what to pay attention to, but we'll get into that in much more detail in the club coaching days. So take a look at your website, take a look at the photographs you have of events and edit them with a new lens, a new idea. Look, you know, and just pay attention. If you look at Joe's image right now, you see that Joe has got the logo for his year at the Carolinas District, but his head's not in front of it. He's sitting, it's off to the side so that you can see his face and the logo. That's a simple compositional technique. Create new albums from past events so you can find them easily. Think about a posting schedule before a upcoming event. Use bright, happy images that show off your work to the best, and clean up your social media and website to best represent your club and all the things that are happening in your community. Remember, be like Mary's tree service, not Jim's tree service. That's it.
And that's obviously a real quick look at some of the things that we can do, but let's open it up for questions for KC and ask if everybody has any questions or wonders about the differences in the photos that KC shared.
Joe, kind of a more general question. Will
Sure.
we be able to get the all the PowerPoints available somehow?
Leah, we can put those on the website with the webinar with our resources. Is that right?
Yes, definitely.
Great,
So we will do
That'd
that.
be
I'll
awesome.
send Leah the combined deck.
great.
Any other questions for KC or about photography? KC, you might just comment on before you actually snap the picture, some of the things that you want to look for to frame the photo a little bit, maybe. What do we want to not, what do we not want to include if we can? Things like the boxes and the buckets and that sort of thing.
Well, that's Joe, that's an excellent point. And it's simply a matter of thinking a little bit about the picture before you snap it. The other secret, one of the best kept secrets of professional photographers is to take lots of pictures and throw away the ones that are no good. You know, I did some photography professionally for a while, and people said, "Oh, all of your pictures are wonderful." And the reason they're all wonderful is because nobody ever saw the bad ones. So when you're taking a picture of your pancake breakfast, take 50, 60 pictures and pull out the 5 or 6 best ones. Don't put the entire catalog on the image. Think of that rule of thirds. When you're taking a picture of somebody, don't put their face bang in the middle of the picture, off to one side. If you're looking at me right now, you can see right now I'm turned and I'm sort of facing toward the middle of the image. That's a lot more effective than this. So get your folks posed a bit. Another amazing secret is what we call porch light. You ever wondered why people look so happy and good sitting on a front porch or a screen porch? It's because the light is coming from the side. It's coming from out front because the sun is blocked from directly overhead by the porch. So if you want to get a good picture of a person, stand them under a tree, put them under a porch, put them under a canopy, and the light will be coming this way. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've got, just where I'm sitting, I've got a light that bounces off the wall behind me, and this diffuse light shines on my face. That's a lot better than I don't have time to set it up now, but some of you are sitting with a window directly behind you. What happens when you have a window directly behind you? All you see is the glare from that window, and the person you're trying to photograph is much darker. The technology on your phone and on your camera is to get an average exposure. And if there's a really bright light source like the sun or a reflection off a car windshield or a window behind you, your computer or your phone is going to naturally darken the whole image to compensate for that bright light. So get away from that strong backlight, get light coming in from the side.
So it's a good idea, KC, when we're taking those 50 photographs at the pancake breakfast, taking them from different angles and perspectives.
Absolutely. Move around, zoom in, zoom out. Take literally, I tell people, take literally a picture of one pancake and then back up and take a picture with a few more pancakes. You'll be amazed how much difference that makes. Anything else?
What about lighting when you're inside? You know, you don't have control. Do you just reposition yourself as best you can?
It's a great question. There are some inside situations where it's just impossible. But if you've got a room with a window, get your subject positioned so that the light from the window is shining on. I don't know where you're sitting, Timothy, but you've got nice side light coming in because there's a window presumably on your right side that's highlighting the side of your face. And then there's a little reflected light coming off the wall on your other side that's highlighting the other side of your face. That you've got perfect light there where you are. Now, the only thing I would do differently is come in closer. Yeah, that's terrible. Exactly, that's exactly making my point.
That's where I'm square face, that's where I have my monitor, because it's square with the desk.
Right, right. So you
But I
turn it that way,
realize-
you get much better light.
And I've always been bothered by that. In fact, if I have the blind up, it's really
Oh,
blinding.
yeah. Yeah.
I think I'll get your advice here and just sit.
Well,
in.
and if you're doing it in the evening, make sure that lamp behind you is turned off. Because if you're zooming in the evening and that lamp is
Right.
on, that's going to be really bright.
Right, yeah. Thanks. That's
You're welcome.
nice.
Any other questions for Casey?
One of the things you all need to understand is that Joe is as good at this as anybody else, and he has perfected the Zoom setup. You notice he's got great light.
Question I got about how you do this within your club is there's one lady, Sylvia Anderson, who's current lieutenant governor and past president. And she's been a very active photographer and get things during the week and put them in. We'd see them at our meetings on our big screens and get them on our website. And so she's been really outstanding. I think one of the things to kind of amplify the exercise is to encourage members whenever they're out with some Kiwanis activity to take pictures and come back. They're great things.
That's great advice, Tim. And one thing that we're going to be doing with Club Excellence Days is asking people that come to the event to bring photographs. And our instructors at those sessions would be love to help them right there hands-on to show you some of the ways that you can improve the photograph for use in social media or through other distribution. So that's going to be another feature, if you will, of Club Excellence Days, is that you'll be able to bring your own. Let's work with your own stuff. Bring pictures from previous events that your club has had, and we'll talk about how you could use that picture and then brand that picture to advertise for the next year's events. So, Casey, thanks so much. I appreciate that.
One final thought.
Mhm.
The best way to edit photographs is while you're taking it. Then it doesn't require any additional work. So think about positioning the image, think about light a little bit, and go from there. And then you don't have to worry about editing tools. But thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Way to go, Casey. Thank you for taking some time on Saturday morning to be with us.
Okay.
My great pleasure.
Okay.
And now I'm going to turn it over to our district membership coordinator, Mike Kirchner, and our governor-elect, Mary Winfrey, our past membership coordinator. And they're going to cover some of what we're going to be talking about with respect to membership topics at Club Excellence Day. So Mike, unmute yourself and away you go. Still muted, Mike.
Oh, okay. How about now?
Perfect.
All right, here we go. You all know that why we're here. This is a teaser. This is a sample of what we're going to talk about on these Club Excellence Days, and what Mary and I decided to share with one of the sections was about making a plan, a membership plan, and actual targeted recruiting. So our objectives here in this session is just to outline the topics that are going to be covered. And Governor Joe has already given you an outline of that. We're going to explain the importance of membership planning, the importance, we're going to focus on the importance of an active membership committee in your club. And then we're going to explore the term targeted recruiting and explain what the heck that means and why it's important as we continue to grow our clubs. So this, as Joe showed you, we're going to have 4 sessions under the membership track. And the first one will be on membership planning and the importance of the committee. The second one will be about how welcoming your club is. This is actually being presented by our DEI committee at the district, and we're looking forward to what they will bring. Third, we're going to talk about the different types of membership and of how you can be so flexible in your club, which a lot of us don't realize how we can do that. And lastly, membership retention best practices. And this is something that has been really important to the membership committee. We've had a very active committee this year, and we've talked a lot about membership retention, and what our goal is to outline all these best practices at this excellence days, as well as a midwinter, as well as decon, and leave you with a real serious resource about how you can keep these members. And then again, there's a reminder for the dates, April 30th in Florence and May 14th in Jamestown. So that's coming up, and this is a little bit of what you're going to get there. We're going to talk about the membership plan. And when you think about it, you know, every successful effort, no matter what you're doing, requires a plan. I mean, we have meeting planners, we have municipal planners, we have emergency planners, we even have wedding planners. You know, everything that's going to happen and going to be successful, you know, requires a plan. So why wouldn't you have a membership plan? And the best way to make your plan really is to begin with a club analysis. And figure out just where you are and how flexible you are, and ask the who, what, when, where, why, and how questions about your club. And I know I've found this to be very, very interesting, because if you ask 10 members of your club those who, what, when, where, why questions, they may have different answers. Different people have different perceptions of what their club is about and what it is that you're all about. So instead of starting with the traditional who, what, when, where, why, we're going to start with the why. And yes, if that sounds familiar, that's stolen from Simon Sinek, who wrote a book saying start with the why. And we're going to ask the question, why do we want members in the first place? You know, why would we want new members? Is it to help with our existing service projects because we're understaffed now? Is that the reason we want new members? Is it to start new service projects that we really want to do and we've identified as important for our community, but we don't have the people to do it? Do we want to bring in new members to start new projects and to come up with new ideas about projects and fundraisers? Or do we just want new members because Governor Joe says we got to bring in new members? You know, but let's think about why it is that we want to bring in members in the first place. And this will all tie in, hopefully, as you develop your plan. We need to think about why we need members before we can focus actually on bringing them in. We then going to move to the what. And this is a question the president of my club has a very aggressive membership goal, and I thought that was great. But I said to him when we sat down for coffee to start developing a plan, I said, what are these people going to do when we get them? And that brought us to a real good discussion. And that's what we need to think about. You know, what is it that we're going to ask our people to do? Are we going to ask them to participate in our current projects? What projects is that? You know, what is it that we do as a club? What is it that we do for fundraisers? What is it that we do for service projects? Let's know, let's write down, let's put down in writing just what it is that we do. Okay. And then we're going to move, of course, to the when. And when is very important. When are we going to ask these people to serve? Are we going to ask them to serve during school hours? Are we going to ask them to serve in the evenings? Going to ask them to serve on weekends? When are our meetings? Are our meetings in the morning or at lunch or in the evening? And why is that important? Well, obviously, that's going to shape who you're going to invite, because if you're going to ask somebody who's busy in business to join your club when all the service that you do is during school hours in school, that's probably unrealistic to expect that they're going to be very active with you. And we found that. And so our challenge as a club is to develop things that can be done on weekends and can be done in the evenings and can be done in times when people who are still busy, because, times have changed. It used to be maybe when I first came around Kiwanis 30 years ago, that maybe the bank branch manager could take an hour or so off for lunch and go to our meeting and enjoy our lunch and meetings. Well, now we have a branch manager who's a member of our club who covers lunches for the tellers during lunch. So from 11 to 1, she's busy covering lunches for her employees, and then she has lunch at her desk. So she doesn't get away for lunch. She's not able to get away. So we have to think about the when, and of course always the where. Where do we serve? Our club is the South Brunswick Islands, so we have several communities and they're widespread. I could drive an hour to one of my schools, down in the South Carolina border. That's within there. So where we need to understand, and we need to be able to tell people, we can go west right to Columbus County. That's the edge of our spread out there in that direction. So we need to be able to explain to people where it is that we're going to be asking them to serve, because that's only fair, right? It's only fair that they understand that and have a complete understanding before we are asked them. So once you've developed that clear picture above about why you want new members, what it is that you're going to do, when is you going to do it, where are you going to do it, then you can start thinking about who fits best, because that's where you're going to have most of your success. Who fits best? Is it young professionals, or is it early retirees, or late retirees, or any retirees, or any other group that you can think of, any other demographic? And you have to closely think about those groups when you're asking them, how realistic is it? Because I'm all about, like Bruce was saying before, spending the least amount of time with the biggest effect, get the most bang for your buck. So if you're going to spend a lot of time recruiting, let's recruit people who can really be ready to jump in and help us out the way that we need to help. Okay. And then we go and move to the how. Once you develop, decided who, then you're going to talk about the how. And then we're going to spend the rest of the session here today talking about who and how, all right? And the first thing, when we talk about who, not only are who we're going to recruit, but who's going to do the recruiting. Because think about it, I want all of you to think about the members of your club. Not every member brings in new members, do they? I mean, it's unrealistic to think that they will. I mean, I've heard for 33 years that, if each one of us just brought in one member, we'd double in size. Well, yeah, that's absolutely true. However, you and I know that each one of us isn't going to bring in members. There are people in your club, probably 20% of your membership, that bring in most of your new members. Okay, that's okay. The other 80% aren't bad members. It's just not something they do. They're not comfortable with it. They don't know. So we're going to talk about that. That's why you need a membership chair. That's why you need a membership committee. And Mary, it's up to you, kiddo.
All right, thank you. So I believe that this perfect plan for membership begins with the membership committee. Who's going to elevate membership topics in your club? The membership committee is going to do that. And it's important to build an effective membership committee, a team made up of people who are focused, that 30% that Mike was talking about, that don't mind making the ask, that don't mind making the plea with your club, people who are well connected to your community. So some of the responsibilities of the membership committee are to elevate the membership topics, which are recruitment, retention, and engagement. It's very important that we bring in new members, but it's equally important that we retain members. The recruitment process can be very different depending on who you're going to recruit. And you'll learn more about that at the Club Excellence Days. Retention is those people that have the history in your club, the people who've already made a footprint in your community. We want to retain them, and we want to make sure that they are valued in our clubs, that they are engaged. Engagement certainly applies to all the members. We know that if we're going to retain our newest members, we need to get them engaged right away. So your membership committee is going to make all of these topics a priority, and they're going to put together a plan to ensure that people are involved. They're going to work with your membership committee is going to work with your board to determine what your membership goals should be. We've talked about the assessment and determining who you're going to recruit and how you're going to recruit. But setting a goal will help you to reach the masses if that's what you want to do, or to draw into a particular group. The membership committee is also going to track progress. How many members are you bringing in? Who's bringing in the members? And what more do you need to do to attract members? One important piece of the membership committee's responsibility is the membership satisfaction survey. And there are a number of ways that a survey can be conducted. It's important to know why people have joined and why they stay, what they enjoy about the club, and possibly what needs to change in order to retain members. The membership committee is going to report regularly to the board and to the club. It's nice to have someone who you know is going to stand up and make the plea in front of the club as to what membership committee goals are and who's bringing in new members. Next, please. So as we're planning and trying to determine what needs to happen with membership, a roster analysis can be conducted to determine what skill sets that you have in the club and what skill sets are missing. And this will help you develop a plan for targeted recruiting. Maybe your club is having difficulty finding a treasurer. And upon the roster analysis, you determine that you need to bring in an accountant or a bookkeeper or someone with a financial background. Maybe you need a graphic designer who's going to help you create graphics for media, for marketing. Or maybe you'd like to know more about what's going on with children from a medical perspective, and you decide that you need to bring in a pediatrician. The roster analysis will help you to determine who's missing and who you need to bring in. You can also use the analysis to determine age groups, retirees, or do you need more young professionals in your club? Do you need more working parents? The roster analysis sheet that you see pictured here can be found simply by Googling Kiwanis roster analysis worksheet. So how you recruit and bring people to your club is entirely up to you. There's so many ways that you can develop this recruiting plan. Maybe you want to do a club boost. What is a club boost? We'll talk about that shortly. Or maybe you're going to use Facebook or other social media outlets for marketing, or hold an open house. Recently, we had a webinar on how to conduct an open house. You can find that on the Carolinas District website. Or a coffee klatch. This is one of Mike Kirshner's ideas, to get together with people just to talk through Kiwanis and help them to understand what it is exactly Kiwanis is about. Start the conversation. Maybe you'll do it over coffee. Or maybe your membership committee is going to help you develop a membership contest. We know that there are contests coming from the Carolinas District, but maybe your club wants to do something very specific to your club. Or maybe, and not pictured here, because of the pandemic, you want to hold a virtual recruiting event. We talked a lot about that last year, and we used those efforts to bring in new members. And in fact, built a club around that. How you grow is entirely up to you. The key is to have a recruitment plan. What are you going to do in your club to attract new members? So we mentioned a club boost. A club boost is often used to build clubs, but can also be used to expand your membership in existing clubs. It is a planned and organized effort to attract new members. So we've talked about a club assessment. We've talked about conducting a roster analysis. But in a club boost, it's very important, just like it is in any effort, to get buy-in from your membership. It takes everyone, right, to bring in new members. Even those people who aren't willing to make the ask can provide a list of prospective members. So develop a plan and go out and start asking folks to come into your club. Can you get help with that? Absolutely. That's what Mike and I are here for. There are other people within the membership committee that are willing to give you a hand. You don't have to do this alone. But again, the key is to develop a plan, come up with a list of prospective members and begin making the ask.
Okay, thank you, Mary. And now I'm going to pick it up here. And I'm not an expert on Facebook or any other social media, and I couldn't spell Facebook last year, so, but these are some of the things that I've learned over the last 2 years, especially in the use of social media. Facebook offered a webinar for nonprofits to use Facebook, and I picked up a lot of good tips on that. So you may check and inquire about that. So this is just going to talk about Facebook. There are many others, and like Instagram is linked to Facebook, and there's a lot of others that you can and may want to use, and a heck of a lot more than I do. But I want to just share the experience that we had, because we built 4 clubs in the last 4 years, I think, and 3 of those were assisted in new club building by the use of Facebook. All right, so we didn't build it with Facebook, but we started there. We developed a website for the club. We set up a boost and sent a boost out, and as a result, we've got a core group of members who we then use to expand and build a club. But you can actually do this for your club. Most clubs now have a Facebook page. So if you're going to boost your page, put your event out, whatever you're very proud of, or if you're going to do a membership drive, put something out, and you use photographs as Casey was talking about, that put you in your best light, and we're going to actually show you how to do a boost, and I will boost a post from my club at the Club Excellence Day. So we'll go step by step and show you how to do that. But what we'll be doing is you can actually define your target audience. You can boost a Facebook for not a lot of money. Okay, you can define who you want to push your page out to. You'll set a budget and how much you want to spend. You'll set a duration. Do you want to run it for a week? Do you want to run it for 2 weeks? Do you want to run it for 3 weeks or whatever? And then, of course, you define your payment method, you put in your credit card, and they'll take care of the rest, believe me. But it's a way to reach new followers and a way to identify new members. And, just an example, as I said, we're going to actually do this, for you. But, the target audience, it gives you an arrow you can slide up from 18 to 65. So you can, if you want to use that whole range, that's obviously going to open it up to more people. Males and females, so you'll get that choice. You get to set the area. You can choose what area. So we usually put in our town and 25 miles around, just so that that's. We also use this for our Field of Honor project last year. We boosted post, and then you set the budget, and they generally starts out with like $15 or something, and that'll be for a week. And you can slide the arrow up and down to that. You can spend more, you can choose to spend less, and that will depend on the number of times and the number of people that reach. And you can reach thousands of people. And what this means is that instead of only your friends being able to see your page is actually pushed out to the people that you have defined there in your boost, so that it will come up on the top of their page. Because one of the things that I've learned, and I learned in this session, is that for a nonprofit, it's recommended that in order to stay active in Facebook, you really should post at least twice a week, a minimum of 2 times a week, in order to stay at the top of everybody's news feeds. Because otherwise, with all the analytics and everything that happened now, if they don't hear from you, if Facebook's computers don't hear from your page very often, you start slipping down people's news feeds, and you won't ever be seen by them. So the more frequently you post, the higher you will come up on people's news feeds, and that's really important for social media. So anyway, that's just a little taste. We will do a little more in depth, and hopefully we'll even have people, because these sessions will be interactive, don't forget, at our Club Excellence. And that's what I'm looking forward to, is to be able to pick your brains well, because I know there's a lot of people who are a lot more in tune to Facebook and other social media outlets. But that's just a flavor of how we used Facebook to increase membership.
Mike, I have a
Yes.
question. This is Tim Holder. I may have missed the beginning of your talk there on the portion about Facebook. Is there, and I'm not even a novice with Facebook, but are you saying that there's a special category for nonprofits, and then people that want to look at nonprofits go to that category?
No, it was just a recommend. There are some special things for nonprofits if you are a 501c3, in that you can do fundraising and stuff through Facebook. But as a regular 501c4, which is what most clubs are, no, it's just giving you recommendations to get the best action on your page and to be seen by the most number of people. That's what I was saying. There's no, so
it's just the general thing. Whether you're an individual with a Facebook page or a group like Kiwanis, people out there in the big world that are, the total population of Facebook users might be cruising around and they land on your site.
Yeah, or they'll query Kiwanis, or they'll query some of the keywords that you've used in your posts and stuff like that, and that's where you will come up if they're cruising around.
Okay, so it's not.
Yep.
It's just having your Facebook page. Good, because we do have a Facebook page, and I can't say how often it gets changed, but anyhow, that's the advice there. Okay.
Right. Well, see, that's the same with us. We set our Facebook page up Matter of fact, Joe set it up for us when we first started our club back in 2018. And then Joe turned it over to, me and others, and we just kind of ignored it and didn't do anything with it. And it's only recently that we've realized that you really have to stay after this and
Keep it
just
alive.
keep posting events and keep posting new photos and everything.
Pictures.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
change the pictures.
And
yeah.
I posted pictures last week on it, and I wish I had taken Casey's, class before then, because I already have seen how I could have improved that photograph. So so that was good, and I look forward to further information on that.
Hey, Mike.
But, yes.
Yeah, real quick on Facebook, what I would also say to clubs is that what we need our members' help when we use a Facebook page. Number one, they need to like our page. That's the first thing, so that they actually see the posts that we put out there. And then secondly, we need them to share the posts that we're putting out there so that their network of friends on Facebook will see the post as well. So you can boost your post two ways. One is to pay for it, which is what Mike is suggesting that we should be doing on membership topics, and I completely agree. And secondly, we boost it through our members so that when they repost or share our posts, that all their friends get to see it. And if a few of them share it, then their friends get to see it. So it really is that kind of that pyramid scheme that's out there, how we can expand the observation of the posts that we're putting on Facebook. But number one, our members need to like our page so they see what we post.
Absolutely, Joe. And as far as results, I told you how we used this as a core to build the last three clubs. The results that we got were like close to 80% of our new members were women, and most of them were early retirees. So if you're looking for that demographic, if that could be helpful to your club, then think about using Facebook. Okay. Open house, Mary mentioned that. There was a great webinar on it last month in January, probably the best attended webinar that the district has had, 46 or so members on it. But so it's there now at the Carolina website. You can go there and find that resource and look at that webinar and see how to put on an open house, which is where you open it up to your community and display everything that you do and then talk to the people. So it's a 2-hour event, but it takes a lot of planning ahead of time. So go see that webinar and take a look. Another how is, what I said is a coffee clutch. Okay. And that's a small group of people, and it's over coffee or an adult beverage. But the way it came about is that we have my club's brought in 6 members since October 1st. Okay. And a couple of these women were saying, geez, we're really excited about this. We'd love to, we can't wait to get going. And I've got a bunch of friends that I think would be interested too, but I don't know enough about Kiwanis, and I don't feel comfortable with asking them. So maybe you could help us. So that's what we designed is, okay, let's you invite your friends to have a cup of coffee, either at a coffee shop or your house or wherever, and we'll come and we'll talk about Kiwanis and we'll answer all their questions. We'll share our passion, because let's face it, the most successful way to bring in new members is a person asking another person, bringing in a friend, bringing in a neighbor. So this is a woman who's asking her friends to come in. So she already has credibility with them. And then we're coming in to talk about Kiwanis, explain, ask, answer questions, and bring a application to fill out. Okay, don't forget that part. But that's just an idea. It's something that we do normally or a lot, but it goes back to the fact that everybody isn't going to recruit, but everybody knows people. So if they're not comfortable asking them themselves, at least get them together and bring someone who is in your club, somebody, your membership chair or your member of your membership committee, or someone else. If you need to reach outside of your club, do so. Mary and I are available. So a coffee clutch. And what else works? Well, there's a lot of things that that may work. And I put my email, Mary's email, and there's the Kiwanis ACE tools, which is Achieving Club Excellence. That's the link to that. But instead of trying to copy down that link or take a picture of it, just Google Kiwanis ACE tools, and that's what will come up. But that's a lot of Achieving Club Excellence tools are a lot of the things we talked about there. You can find them on Kiwanis website. We have a lot of resources there. So please use them. Okay. And that's about it, Joe.
Thanks, Michael. Any questions for Mike or Mary? Mary, I'm going to throw a question out to you that ask you to address it. Sometimes when we set membership goals, you know, the number looks kind of big. What's your thoughts about breaking down that goal, maybe by month or by meeting or something like that for a club?
Well, we're going to hear more about 2 by 2 over the next year, but definitely you have to plan for what's best for your club. But if you bring in too many members and you don't hold an orientation and get them involved, you may lose them. But I think it's a great goal to think about bringing in 2 members per month. And of course, when you do bring them in, think about mentoring them and making sure that there's someone to help them stay engaged. The goal that you set is based upon your club and what works best for your club. But a 2 by 2 plan might be more manageable than thinking about next month you want to bring in 10 new members. So we'll talk more about that over time.
Perfect. Perfect.
One other question, Joe, maybe for Mary or Mike. Some clubs don't feel like they have a wonderful club and don't understand the percentage of numbers, just basic numbers of people that are going to leave their club. Can you just give us a brief overview of what that number is?
Yeah, I can tell you that I've been working in membership in Kiwanis for over 20 years now, and the number is always about 17% of your members are going to leave. You're going to lose 17% of your members annually. That's going to average out. So if you have a good year where you only lose 5 or 10%, you're going to have a bad year coming up because it's going to average out 17% over time. And big clubs know that. They suffer terribly. And Chris, I'm glad you're here. I asked you, I was going to share a story that Chris shared with us, but if he's here and wouldn't mind, I'll ask you to share that story about the Raleigh Club and just your numbers starting back when Chris was president go ahead, Chris, 2013.
Thanks, Mike. So sure, I'll be glad to. So in 2013, October 1, 2013, when I became club president, we had 198 members. That year, we recruited 26 new members. We won the Eagle Award for largest growth in the district. The next year when Casey was president, we did even better. We had 33 new members. We January 1 of 2016, we had 242 members. We went from 198 to 242 in less than a year and a half. So, or a year and a half. So the problem that we've had over time is how to retain them, how to engage them. We've had members pass away, etc. So as of January 1, 2022, 6 years later, we're at 198. We have recruited during that 6 years right at 150 new members. During that 6 years, we have lost 150 members. So we're, despite all the work we did 6 years ago, or over the last 6 years, we're right where we were then. But the positive thing is, think what would happen if we had not recruited 150 members. we would really be in a world of hurt right now. We might be down in 110, 115, 120 members. So recruiting is 24/7, 12 months out of the year. And I gave Mike a couple basketball analogies. I'll leave those with Mike. He can use them at a later presentation if he'd like. But the purpose is you've got to recruit year round, and it's you've got to recruit on the front end and try to keep them from going out on the back end. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Chris. And
I have a question about that. Which club are you in? Which geographic territory?
he's Raleigh, the Raleigh Club. Yep.
Okay.
Lions
The big
Club Raleigh.
city. The big city.
Yep.
Are
And,
there
and
more
Rim
than
and Fly.
one club in Raleigh?
I'm sorry.
Is there more than one club in Raleigh?
There used to be about 5. Now there are 2. There's the Midtown Kiwanis Club, which has about 28 members. And then our club, which is at 198 as of January 1.
Oh, interesting.
And there are some suburban clubs as well.
Right. I'm just talking about
okay.
inside the city limits.
Yeah. Okay.
Bird
so
sanctuary.
More around the suburbs.
Right.
So what we just heard is information relating to data. And understanding those trends will help you set the goals. But being realistic and determining what your club specifically can do is important as well. We know people are going to leave, right? We know not everyone is going to stay, and sometimes not by their own choice. People are going to leave, so we have to plan for that as well.
yeah, and that 17%, I said, that's normal attrition. I mean, that's people moving away, people passing away, or people becoming too sick to work. That's not people that are leaving because they're discontented. All right. So that's just what's going to happen normally. So, you really have to bring in over 20% of new members statistically. If you want to look at just cold hard numbers, in order to stay ahead of the curve, you got to bring in over 20%.
Thanks, Mike. And thanks, Mary. Appreciate that. And thanks all of you for being here. Nearly everyone that started today with us is still here. I'm so pleased that you are in fact still with us and hopefully finding some value in today. One thing I want to add is that one of the great features about Club Excellence Days is not just hearing from presenters like Mike and Mary and Casey and Bruce, but it's interacting with each other and talking to each other, given this opportunity to focus on a few topic areas that are related to Kiwanis, sharing information with each other. What people often walk away and say is, I got as much from talking to the other folks that were there participating as I did from the presenters. And that's really important because it gives you that opportunity. You got lunchtime to talk to one another, and you have your club planning session when you pull together the thoughts of with the other members from your club that have been there. So thanks for everybody for being here today. Thanks to all of our presenters for giving some of the topical information, the real meat of some of these presentations. And I tell you, I'm really looking forward to our first one in Florence, going to be April 30th. Remembering then May 14th is our planned date up in Jamestown. We'll hopefully have registration open soon, right, Leah?
Yes, sir. We're just going to finish up with the schedule to get it ready to go. And hopefully we can have that open on Wednesday. We just don't want people to get confused between signing up for mid-year and signing up for the Club Excellence Days.
Right.
What time do the Club Excellence Days start? How long do they run?
Usually they start at 9 in the morning, and they'll be wrapped up between 3:30 and 4, usually around 3:30.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, registration usually opens like 8:30 or something, but the sessions will start promptly at 9.
Exactly.
And lunch will be included.
Yep. $30. It's a bargain for a full day of education, and hopefully everybody can join us and participate in one. We're right on the time for departure, so thank you all again. Enjoy the big game this week.
Wait. We promised one free registration for
right.
Club Excellence Day. So Joe, I need you to pick a number between 1 and 28.
I'll pick 18.
Okay, 5, 10, 15, 16, 17. Larry Roberts, you have gotten a free registration for your choice. Congratulations to either Florence or Jamestown. If you would put your email in the chat, I will contact you on Monday to get you set up.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll be there.
Very good. Linda, did you have a question? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Sorry. No, I was just waving goodbye.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. Very good. Well, enjoy the big game this weekend. If you're going to watch, happy Valentine's Day to everybody on Monday. And we look forward to seeing you at future webinars and at Club Excellence Day. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Bye-bye now.